feels like a weird time to be talking about a phone like this, doesn't it? In an age where our phones are these all-knowing slabs of glass, devices that run our lives, looking back at the Nokia 3300 feels like visiting another planet. But that's exactly why we need to. Because back in 2003, one company was so dominant, so completely unafraid to fail, that it decided to build a phone that thought it was a video game controller and an MP3 player. This wasn't a smartphone. This was a fun phone. And this is the story of one of Nokia's weirdest, most wonderful experiments, the 3300. To really get the Nokia 3300, you have to transport yourself back to 2003. It was a totally different universe. The idea of one device that did everything was still science fiction. Your digital life was scattered across a bunch of different gadgets. You had a digital camera, a portable CD player, or maybe one of those new MP3 players, a Game Boy Advance for gaming, and, of course, a phone for calls and texts. Each one with its own charger, its own batteries, and its own spot in your backpack. In this world, Nokia wasn't just a phone company. It was the undisputed king. They were selling phones by the hundreds of millions. Their market share was colossal. And with that kind of power comes the freedom to get weird. The freedom to experiment. Nokia was churning out designs that looked like they were from a parallel dimension. Phones that flipped, twisted, and swiveled. Phones with circular keypads and lipstick-shaped bodies. It was a time when phones had personality, when they weren't all just the same black rectangle. And into this glorious chaos, Nokia threw two of its most audacious ideas. One was the N-Gage, its attempt to dethrone the mighty Game Boy. But we'll get to that beautiful disaster in a minute. The other, released in June of 2003, was its quirky cousin, the Nokia 3300. Its codename was Hitchhiker, and its mission was different. It wasn't trying to be the ultimate gaming machine. Nokia marketed it as a music phone first. It was the successor to the equally strange Nokia 5510, and it wanted to be the ultimate pocket jukebox, a device for calls and texts, sure, but its real soul was all about music and a little bit of gaming. It was Nokia's answer to a question that was just starting to bubble up. What if your phone could replace your MP3 player? Just look at this thing. The Nokia 3300 doesn't look like a phone. It looks like a prop from a sci-fi movie that wasn't brave enough to actually use it. The design is completely, unapologetically horizontal. It's a perfect little brick, about 114 millimeters wide and a chunky 20 millimeters thick. It weighed 125 grams, which is light by today's standards, but back then it felt substantial. You felt like you were holding something real. The whole layout is built around one central feature, a tiny 1.7-inch square display, right in the middle. This screen was, even for its time, a bit of a compromise. It was a 128 by 128 pixel CSTN panel that could only show about 4,096 colors. It's dim, it's a little blurry, and looking at photos on it is an abstract experience. But the screen wasn't the star of the show. The controls were. On either side of that screen are the two halves of its personality. On the left, you've got what is unmistakably a D-pad. It's clicky, responsive, and just screams, "Play games on me." But then on the right, you don't get more gaming buttons. You get a full numeric keypad in a standard 3x4 grid. Below that, the iconic green and red keys for making and ending calls. It's a hybrid, a device caught between two worlds. A game controller and a phone, fused together with that classic Nokia confidence. And the build quality is exactly what you'd expect from peak-era Nokia. This thing is a tank. The body is made of thick, durable plastic. It feels like you could throw it against a wall, and the wall would probably come off worse. And in true early 2000s Nokia fashion, it had express-on interchangeable covers. The phone came in colors like a deep blue, but you could swap the plates for other wild colors, giving it a level of personalization that's pretty much vanished today. Let's take a quick walk around the chassis. Up top, there's a row of ports that tells you everything about its ambitions. You've got a dedicated music button, a 2.5mm headphone jack. A bit annoying even then, but a headphone jack nonetheless, a proprietary Nokia USB port, and the classic barrel charger. On the bottom, a single, surprisingly powerful speaker grill and the microphone. It's a weirdly thoughtful design, even if the whole concept is bizarre. And then there was the American version, the 3300B. This one leaned into the weirdness even more. Instead of the keypad on the right, it had a full split QWERTY keyboard, making it look like a tiny, futuristic messaging machine. Now, this is where the 3300 really shines. The whole reason this phone existed was music. In 2003, the iPod was picking up steam, but it was expensive. Most of us were still using CD players or basic MP3 players with almost no storage. The Nokia 3300's big idea was to put a great music experience right into the phone you were already carrying. It supported both MP3 and AAC files, which was a huge deal. But more importantly, it came with a 64 megabytes multimedia card, MMC. Today, 64 megabytes is nothing. But back then, that was enough for about an hour of music, maybe 15 to 20 songs. For the first time, you could have a playlist of your favorite tracks living right on your phone. For many people, this was a game changer. The experience was surprisingly good. Hitting that dedicated music key instantly launched the player. The D-pad on the left became your controls, up and down for volume, left and right to skip tracks. You could even make playlists and use an equalizer. The built-in speaker was also awesome for its time. It was loud, it was clear, and you could genuinely put this phone on a table and use it as a mini boombox. And if your 20 songs weren't enough, the 3300 also had a built-in stereo FM radio. You just plugged in the headphones to act as an antenna, and you had live radio. Could even record snippets from the radio, which felt like magic. One of its best-selling points was the ability to set any MP3 as your ringtone, a feature that was heavily advertised to stand out from all the boring polyphonic tones. Getting music onto it was a bit of a ritual. You had to use the Nokia PC Suite software and a USB cable. It was clunky, it was slow, but it worked. And the result was liberating. Your phone was now your Walkman. One less gadget to carry. So, with a design that borrows so heavily from a game controller, you'd expect this to be a gaming powerhouse, right? Well, you'd be a little disappointed. This is where the story of the 3300 is totally different from its famous cousin, the N-Gage. The 3300 was not a dedicated gaming platform. It ran on Nokia's Series 40 software, which meant it was limited to simple Java games. The experience was definitely better than gaming on a normal keypad. That D-pad gave you real, tactile control that made games way more playable. The phone came with a few classics like Snake X2 and Water Rapids. You could download more games, but the selection was limited to the same simple Java titles available on most other Nokias. There were no 3D graphics, no game cartridges, no multiplayer over Bluetooth. This was basic mobile gaming, just with a much better control scheme. It was a phone you could game on, not a gaming phone. So the 3300 was a great little music player and a decent device for simple games. But how did it actually work as a phone? And what about the N-Gage, which Nokia launched around the same time? As a phone, it was awkward. Holding this wide, horizontal brick up to your face to make a call just felt weird. Texting was okay on the standard model with its T9 keypad, but the North American version with its QWERTY keyboard was a much better messaging device. And then there was the N-Gage. The N-Gage was Nokia's moonshot. It was a real attempt to create a hybrid smartphone and gaming console. It had a bigger screen, a more powerful Symbian OS, and supported amazing 3D games on cartridges. But in practice, the N-Gage was a beautiful mess. It was expensive, and you had to take the battery out just to change a game. Most infamously, you had to hold it on its side to make a call, earning it the legendary nickname, the taco phone. This is where the Nokia 3300 finds its place. It was the sensible, more focused sibling. While the N-Gage was swinging for the fences and striking out, the 3300 was quietly hitting a single. It wasn't trying to be a PSP before the PSP. It was trying to be the best music phone on the market, with some fun gaming features on the side. It was less ambitious, but in many ways it was a more user-friendly product. Unfortunately, it still had its own problems. The lack of a camera, right when camera phones were becoming a must-have, was a huge miss. The low-resolution screen felt dated even when it came out. And that quirky design, while some of us loved it, was just too weird for most people. It never became a bestseller and quickly faded away, overshadowed by the N-Gage's high-profile failure. The Nokia 3300 is not a device you'll find in any Hall of Fame. It didn't change mobile history, but what it is a perfect artifact from a lost golden age. It's a monument to a time when the biggest mobile company in the world wasn't afraid to be weird, to experiment, and to put fun first. Looking at it today, it feels both ancient and refreshingly brave. Every modern smartphone is an incredible music player and a powerful gaming machine, but they achieved this by becoming uniform, characterless black mirrors. The 3300 wore its purpose on its sleeve. Its strange, playful body was a direct expression of what it was for. It was a device with a point of view. It's a relic from the time when phones were fun. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you ever own one of these bizarre beauties? What was the weirdest phone you ever had? Let me know your favorite stories and memories down in the comments. And if this video gave you a new perspective on a piece of tech history, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the secret stories of tech. Thanks for watching.